to visit the sins of the father upon the son. These common sense values are reflected in our legal code. When someone dies, their debts aren't passed to the son or daughter. When an adult is pulled over for a speeding ticket, no ticket is given to the 2-year-old riding in a child seat in back. But that's exactly what, in this debate, some people are advocating. Ticket the 2-year-old who was along for the ride, they say. What that 2-year-old was doing was illegal. They were speeding too. The child was speeding. But regardless of one's faith, punishing the wrong person for a crime because of a blood relation, because of happenstance, defies our ethical sense. Some have said this is some kind of amnesty, but one can't grant amnesty to people who haven't committed any wrong, who have not violated any law. It makes no sense to talk of amnesty for a 2-year-old who was brought along on a ride that they didn't choose. Ticketing the 2-year-old makes no more sense than penalizing a child for passively being brought here by their parents. A 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, an 11-year-old not only isn't competent to make a choice to violate the law, but even if you assume that they were, and a 6-year-old was competent for their decisions to violate our immigration laws, they are in practice unable to economically or socially separate from the family unit that provides for their sustenance. No one with any degree of common sense can say a 6-year-old should leave their parents if their parents are violating some law. A child has to go with their parents. There's nothing else a child can do. With our proposals, we were willing even to say we don't even go up to the age of 18. To eliminate any question, we said if you're 17, if you're 16, then you're going to somehow be responsible. You should know better. You should leave your parents and home and support structure. And that's a painful concession to make, because I think many of us know in our hearts that 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds that we know, are they really with their parents and survive completely on their own? Some might be, but many are not. So we set the maximum age at 15 in the DREAM Act. That's a concession we made, we thought, to make this bill low-hanging fruit to get it passed. Because no one can argue that an 8-year-old or a 12-year-old is capable of what we expect a 17 or 8-year-old to have done under this bill. The lack of having some mechanism of adjusting the status of these stateless individuals, these de facto Americans, is immoral for our nation and forces underage children to bear the heavy costs of their parents' decision to violate our laws. You know, I wish that we had passed comprehensive immigration reform and replaced our broken immigration system with one that worked, and I'm proud to say I'm a co-sponsor of the House bill to have done that. We should reduce the number of illegal immigrants from about 15 million to close to 0, and we know how, and we can, but we did not. So where we are, we're talking about, with regard to these young people, one of the politically easiest, bipartisan, most economically important, most morally pressing elements of immigration reform, recognizing the hundreds of thousands of de facto Americans who were brought here as minors without their knowledge or consent, and that our taxpayer dollars have educated and will be living their lives in our nation as legal entities with the potential to eventually attain the full rights and responsibilities of citizenship. You know, passing the DREAM Act would reduce the number of illegal immigrants in our country by 500,000 people. Those who oppose the DREAM Act support the ongoing presence of over 500,000 more illegal aliens within our borders. Opponents of the DREAM Act make a travesty of the rule of law and facilitate the ongoing presence of undocumented foreign nationals inside our country, which hurts the budgets of counties, cities, and frustrates states with good reason. Opponents of the DREAM Act would make a criminal rather than a police officer out of Zandy. States like Arizona have taken actions against illegal immigration precisely because of the size of this issue and Congress's complete failure to do anything about it. With the DREAM Act, we had a chance to cut illegal immigration instantly by 5%. That's substantial. I'd rather cut it by 100%, but 5%, it's something we can be proud of, a first step to show the American people we're serious about solving the immigration issue. At the same time, it strengthens our economy, improves our schools, makes money for taxpayers, $1.7 billion, and restores the rule of law to our nation. The CBO said that it will reduce the deficit by $1.7 billion. That doesn't even include the future income streams we talked about earlier. I certainly expect that all members who are serious about reducing the deficit will enthusiastically support deploying the talent that these young people have to bear in our country. In my home state of Colorado, roughly 46,000 people would have been eligible under the DREAM Act, Madam Speaker. I have to go back to them and tell them, not yet. Be patient, keep playing by the rules, study hard, work hard. Our country will get it right. I hope it's next year. I hope it's the year after. But not yet. Our decision before us was clear. We had the choice of making a marine scientist out of Claudia or an illegal immigrant. Last week, I'm sad to say, Madam Speaker, that while our House would have made a marine scientist out of Claudia, the failure of action in the Senate has made Claudia an illegal immigrant. Our nation deserves more scientists and engineers, not more illegal immigrants. I want to pose two questions. One is, what would we ask of them? What do we want these young people to do? That's what they asked me. What would you have us do? And the second, what is best for us in our country? Claudia posed it well. What do they want us to do, she said. Instead of going to college or serving in the military, are we telling Claudia to clean buildings at night? Are we telling her to become a nanny or a construction worker? Are we telling her to go to a country where she doesn't know anyone, barely speaks the language, and hasn't even been to in her memory? I want Claudia to be the best darn marine scientist in the United States and to make great scientific discoveries that benefit humanity and improve our knowledge of the oceans. For those who oppose the DREAM Act, I ask them, what do you want Claudia to do? These stateless young people will be a credit to any nation. Let's make it our nation. Madam Speaker, this debate is about Ray. Ray was brought here when she was 2 years old. Her parents told her that she was born in the United States, and so she wouldn't feel the stigma of being foreign-born. So Ray grew up not knowing she was foreign-born until she was a teenager. Ray wanted to be involved with fashion. Her tough can-do attitude led her to start her own lace business. Now, unfortunately, Ray is no longer with us. She passed away, but don't fret. This immigrant story ends happily. Ray Keller, my great-grandmother, passed away at the age of 98 in 1989. Without friendly immigration laws that allowed people to naturalize, I wouldn't be standing here before you today as a member of Congress. So too, Madam Speaker, there are future generations of Americans, including, I'm sure, future members of this body, who are relying on Congress to act to recognize their forebears as the excellent Americans they already are. Madam Speaker, Ray Keller was a proud American. This speech tonight is not a eulogy for a lost opportunity to pass the DREAM Act and replace our broken immigration system. Rather, this speech is a challenge to the next Congress to give all of us an answer for what Claudia should do, an answer for what these young people, these children of our country, should do with their lives, to pursue their own dreams, and should do with their lives to contribute to the only country they know, the United States of America. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. Under the Speaker.